think the other thing about having to explain your profession isn't new. I think I've probably spent 30 years trying to explain to people what I actually do for a living. The fact of the matter is, you know, the whole sugging process has been going on ever since I started in this business and will continue to do so. And I think that the important thing is, you know, because I don't do quantitative research, but when you've got people doing on-street interviews, it's about making sure that, you know, the respondent feels confident enough that the person they're speaking to is, if you like, going back to that word, accredited, and is a member of an organisation which is, you know, duty-bound to do it. Now, interviewers are all meant to be part of card schemes and what have you, and therefore their reputation is vested in that identifier. And I think the problem we have is we live in a world where information is around us all the time in different full of guises, and it's very easy for market research to be discredited by the activities of others. And you can't be a police force, at the end of the day, you know, heaven help people, but we need to, my phone, we need to ensure that, you know, the people that represent us through agencies on the street or whether it be through television actually do so in an authoritative and bespoke manner, if you like, which actually reflects positively on the industry.
Giles, we want to think of ourselves as a profession, and if somebody said at a cocktail party that, you know, what do? Would you rather say you were an accountant? Well, okay. A lawyer or a market researcher or a dentist or some such thing. It's been a perennial problem for us, but you know, response rates have been dropping. The internet now is full of pop-up do-our survey things. You know, what can we do as an industry to try and address this? I mean, we might just get swamped.
I've got no problem with saying when I work in insight or marketing. Probably the latter raises more eyebrows than the former. I think, you know, I suppose there's a related question about being whether research is a trade or a profession. Speaking as someone whose father was a solicitor, brother a priest, and another brother who worked in the medical profession, you know, those are the three traditional professions. Not counting the very first profession, so I think, you know, professional status is important. The question is, how do you move from being a trade to professional status? And you know, obviously it's driven by qualifications, it's driven by education, it's driven by examination, it's driven by experience, and it's driven by having a regulatory body that has sufficient teeth to discipline its members. The issue is about those people who are not members. And I don't know quite the answer to that in terms of how, you know, if it's a closed shop, you know, the legal profession has a closed shop, the medical profession has a closed shop. I don't think research is going to be able to have a closed shop where you cannot practice research without being a member of a professional body. So an answer, I don't know quite what the answer is.
Well, let's see what Jane has to say, because as you know, there are moves afoot to do with becoming chartered, the MRS becoming chartered, so there's a step towards professionalism. But I know that in the past the MRS have tried to do things to try and educate the public about what market research is, but you know, we just don't have the money to do that.
No, we don't, but we can do a lot more to get users of market research to help us in this. And one of the things that's in development for this year is a consumer mark which will identify people who are using data ethically. So a bit like fair trade tells you if people have sourced ethically, and Carbon Trust tells you if they've used the right sort of trees and what have you. We think that there is a big gap to help consumers understand who's using their data ethically. And we've talked to a number of, obviously, all of our corporate members. We've talked to business in the community, and politicians, and I think this is a really good initiative, and you will see the launch of that before April this year. I have a personal way around this. My current way is just to demand of, tell anybody who rings me that I only ever answer surveys from people who are members of the MRS. I have actually acquired 3 company partners this way, and 2 of them are PR firms actually, who were, I actually managed to point out they were doing something illegal. And I think that we can all raise the issue of code line and the code and doing things legally, because a lot of people don't realise they are doing things illegally, including certain government departments these days. So I think that the methods are there, but we've all got to agree to talk about it and do it. But the point of creating a consumer mark is to let those people who are using data actually go out there and sell the importance of the ethics and the standards for us, because you're right, we don't have the money.
Emma, in the digital world, well, there's lots of research being done. Very difficult to identify often, where it's coming from and where the data are going. Any particular thoughts on that?
I really am not expert at all in the ethics of this. The interesting things that I've seen are businesses, digital businesses, who are generating enormous reams of data, hugely valuable data about their customers' behaviour. The customer doesn't know they're doing it. It is entirely anonymised, so it's not personal. I really don't understand the ethics of it, but that's why I made the point that I made in the note that I sent. I increasingly come across so many companies, some of whom know what they're sitting on. Some of them really know. They're just trying to work out quite what they're going to do with it. Some of them don't even know what it is that they've got. What we see as consumers can sometimes be off-putting. I get really annoyed when I've been to the John Lewis site and then I get a John Lewis ad on The Guardian when I go to The Guardian. That bothers me enormously. And I think there are some really, really interesting people around personal data. There's a very, very interesting organisation called Midex who are doing some really interesting stuff around consumers and their data. I think the interesting thing is the data gathering that the individual have no idea it's going on. I actually think that's probably, in many ways, very, very rich and very, very interesting data. The particular organisation that I've met up with recently is an organisation called Dressipy. It's not for me particularly, but it's a site that enables you to put together outfits for women. So, and what they are able to tell you through their customers' behaviour is if a particular woman of a particular age group buys this outfit from Marks and Spencer's or wherever, they are most likely to buy a handbag from this provider or a handbag that costs this much. The amount of that they have put in a huge amount of work to create a taxonomy basically around the fashion industry, and now or very soon they will have an extraordinary amount of data about how consumers behave, and the consumer has no idea that it's going on.